In this section, I'm going to go over types of investments you guys can actually make, and there's tons of them. So you can do house hacking, you could buy just normal rentals, apartments, retail spaces, RV parks, storage units, hotels. Like there's countless numbers of ways you guys can invest. With all these different ways to invest, if you go into a room full of real estate investors and you ask them what they're doing, they will all tell you they are doing something completely different and their way is the best. The commonality they all have is they all invest in real estate. The point is, you can do any of these. They all work depending on where you're at.
Trevor, just curious, of those types of investments, which do you have personal experience for the ways you're investing?
I've done Airbnbs, I've done apartments, I've done value add houses, other single family houses, I've done rent by the room, and I think that's about it. Some of our other clients have done midterm rentals and all the other different types as well.
And you've had the experience, like you said, they all work.
Yeah, they all work. It depends on your market and then your personal goals. So with all these different types of investments, it can be really tough to pick one and actually get started. You guys are all here because you probably lack one or multiple of money, knowledge, or resources. You guys probably think this is a problem, but it is actually a benefit. It narrows down what you can actually pick from to get started and making it easier to actually jump in.
So Trevor, what do you see most people do to get started in their real estate investing?
Most people are starting out with house hacking. So house hacking is by far the easiest way to get going. It lets you use 0 to 5% down loans, so it requires not that much money. It's the lowest amount of risk as you get long-term fixed rate debt. It's super doable for beginners, and then it's great entry level because it's going to teach you everything you need to know to buy your next property after that. So house hacking is using an owner-occupied loan to turn residential real estate into investment real estate. And there's a ton of different ways you can do this. You could buy a property, rent out the extra rooms. This is what I did starting out. You could buy a duplex, triplex, fourplex, live in one unit, rent out the other units. You could buy a property, live in it for a while, move to the next, and keep on repeating that over time. You could buy multiple houses on one lot. You could buy a property with an ADU. You could buy a fixer-upper, live in it for 2 out of 5 years, sell it tax-free. You could build a 2 to 4 unit property. There's tons of different things you can do. And then you can also actually mix strategies as well. And then you can mix these in with things like short-term and midterm rentals. House hacking is not the only way you need to invest though. There's plenty of other options. You can do 20% down, just normal loans where you don't have to own or occupy the property. You could do second home loans with 10% down. You could do DSCR loans, which is just stands for debt service coverage ratio. It's an investment product where they look at not your personal financials as much, but the actual property. And then you have commercial loans. So commercial loans are for anything 5 and above unit count. And then you can buy office spaces, retail spaces, RV parks, and all those different things as well. On top of that, you have some more creative options. So this is what we love and specialize in. It's not the point of this class. It's a different class we teach. But you can do things like seller carried contracts. So a seller carry is when you don't have a bank involved and the seller acts as the bank for you. So they could own a property free and clear and you make payments to them over time rather than to a bank. Super cool part about this is it's 100% negotiable. So I could do things like I could change my interest rate every month, every year. I could start payments late. I could do anything that both parties agree upon. Another creative finance option that we love right now are subject to and wraps. Again, not the point of this class, but I just wanted to touch on it for you guys. So with those, you can leave the seller's existing debt in place and take ownership to the property. This is super cool because a ton of people just bought properties in 2020 through 2022 with super low interest rates. And you can take advantage of those low interest rates by taking over their loan, essentially. Another very similar option is a lease option, which is also known as rent to own, and it acts very similarly. We won't dive into the details. And then on top of that, you can mix seller carries with bank financing, and this is a really cool way to get a lower interest rate overall or some terms that make your deal work. Again, this is something we specialize in and we love for clients to do, just not typically on your first property.
Yeah, so I know a lot of people when they hear seller finance, it's almost the sexy way to get into real estate. What makes it challenging for beginners and why is it sometimes better just to start with a standard house hack?
There's less deals available that are seller financed, so they're harder to find, it takes longer to find, and then it's harder to understand the actual terms and analyze a deal when you're starting out. When you're just doing a basic deal, it's pretty simple, but when you start diving into seller finance and getting more creative, it can be harder to just wrap your head around.
Yeah, and I think too, when you have such a high leverage loan option available where you can put 3-5% down, sometimes that's just the best way to get that purchase, right? Whereas later on, if you have if you're not looking to move into your next house, sometimes that seller carry option is much more attractive, or maybe the only good way for you to buy at that time.
Yeah, there's a ton of different ways to do a deal. And sometimes not every tool is right for that deal. So sometimes just getting a loan is the best option. So another option you guys have is partnerships. There's 4 roles within every partnership. And when you're buying enough deals, you will eventually need one of them. At the beginning, you're gonna play all 4 roles typically, but at some point later on, you may wanna partner for one of the other ones. So the first one we have is deal finder. Pretty self-explanatory. It's someone who finds the deals. The next one you have is a money partner. So that's the person bringing the actual money for the down payment, or you're bringing the debt, the loan that someone has. And then you have a deal analyzer. So that's the person who underwrites the deal and shows what the numbers will be and what the business plan is. And then you have the asset manager. That can be the person who's managing the property or managing the property managers or doing all the rehab and construction and actually executing the business plan.
Trevor, when you're looking at partnerships and maybe in your own partnerships, are people sharing these roles, or is someone usually taking responsibility for one or the other? How does that work?
It's important to define these roles. So typically you want one person in each seat. Otherwise you're gonna muddy the waters and cause confusion. And then using these 4 roles is gonna help you guys actually know if someone should be in the deal or not. I've made a lot of mistakes by just partnering with friends because we were friends and we didn't have one of these 4 roles. So if you're actually defining what these are and who's responsible for each one, it's gonna help you guys tremendously.
Would you also say that the money partner, is that one more shared equally, would you say, as far as that specific seat?
Yeah, so that seat can be split because multiple people can bring in different amounts of funds. So you could have each of you bring in 50% and then go from there. But typically, same with debt, you can both sign on the loan. So that one is a little bit shared, but you want to still define it on the front end of who is bringing what.
When you're looking at buying a deal, do you prefer buying it yourself or buying it with partners?
I'm typically buying with partners right now because it allows me to do more and bigger deals. But when I started out, I was playing all 4 roles on every single deal, and I've done different phases through different roles. And it's great because you can benefit each partner in different ways by being one of the different roles. So you can have multiple partnerships. Some of the partnerships you may be a money partner on. Some of the other partnerships you may be the asset manager or one of the other roles. Some of the other benefits is it can help you qualify. So if you don't qualify for a loan on your own, you can get a partner, and that's a workaround. Also, a lot of investors starting out have a ton of fear. So you can partner with people, whether it's you're scared, someone that's more experienced, or after you buy a couple properties, you can help other people jump into real estate and also benefit from partnering with them. It also, it helps you do bigger and more deals through partnering. So partnering isn't for everyone. You don't have to partner to do deals, but it is an option for you guys.
Yeah, so I know when buying a deal, one of the biggest hurdles people get over is the risk of real estate. Would you say that partnering kind of helps people offload that risk and feel a bit better about that?
It can. So if you're buying a deal and you have a 50-50 partner, now you cut your risk in half. You also cut your upside in half, but you do cut your risk in half.
And one thing I will throw out just as a lender that has made partnering such a huge advantage is conventional. Fannie Mae came out and said that they're going to allow a 5% down owner-occupied loan for 2 to 4 units. And the reason this is really big is because Fannie Mae also allows non-owner occupant borrowers on that loan. So what that means is if you're trying to get into a house but you don't qualify, if you know someone else who's willing to partner on the deal with you and you're willing to live in it, now we can buy that deal with owner-occupied financing with as little as 5% down on up to 4 units. And that makes a huge difference and allows a lot of people to get into financing that they wouldn't have otherwise been able to do.
That was an intro into the different types of investments you guys can make. In the next section, we're going to dive into actual examples of how people have done that. And if you want to just shortcut and start working with us, click the link below.